Welcome into another edition of the FutureSox RoundUp. My name is Elijah Evans, joined by my co-host Dylan Barnas. We are back. We got more stuff to talk about as we record today. We are 3 days out from the MLB trade deadline, which is going to be crazy. So we're going to record again on probably on Thursday or Friday here once we get
Yeah.
the deadline rumbling because there's going to be a lot going on this week. It's going to be pretty crazy. The White Sox, as they play the Phillies right now, playing pretty well. Shout out Colson Montgomery, man. First, before we kind of get into our topics for today. Colson Montgomery, I don't know if you saw this, the first left-hander to go deep on Christopher Sanchez all season.
Yep. Yep.
Christopher Sanchez is like one of, first of all, most underrated pitcher in baseball. I don't think that's a crazy statement by
Yeah.
me. I think he is
Yeah.
like such a good pitcher. And Colson Montgomery, and also specifically against lefties, like no lefties touch that
Right.
guy.
Yeah. He's allowed
And
4 lefty homers in his entire
his
career.
career, right? And that was
Yeah.
including like a rookie season when he was still like a nobody at that point, right? And like
Right.
it's impressive. Colson looks great. Luis Robert, home run. Very impressive there. Nice to see him make a diving catch as well. We hear people mentioning it. Dave Dombrowski is there tonight.
Yep.
We'll see
We'll
what
see.
happens. Luis
Yeah.
Robert, we've said it from the start. We said it on our mock trades episode last week. Like the Phillies are the best fit for Luis Robert. It
Yeah.
has been that way for the past 2 years, and we've been talking about Luis Robert trades. Like he is such a good fit for them to help that outfield defensively with so many kind of older outfielders out there to really just kind of shore up their outfield defense to mash lefties, which is something they need some help with. It makes so much sense. We'll see, but I don't know. I think this series is A, if you can win a game or two from the Phillies, awesome,
Oh, yeah.
and B, if you can use this series to trade Luis Robert to the Phillies, I am all for it.
Exactly. And, if he ends up auditioning for the Phillies and it doesn't end up that he goes there, you got other suitors in the Mets and the Padres. And, the Dodgers are always lurking. I'm not going to
Yeah.
rule them out based on
Can
how
never rule them
connected
out.
they've been. Exactly. Based on how connected they've been in the past, I'm not going to rule them out. But, I think that the two top dogs are the Phillies and the Mets. And if Robert puts on a show, then the Phillies could be like, all right, we're getting this guy and we're going to go win the NL
Yep.
East. So
Yeah,
it's
we
the
will see
best of
what
both
happens.
worlds.
Exactly. So for today, we're going to get into a variety of things. We're going to do a little bit of a few different things today. We'll touch on some promotions. A number of guys in the organization received a promotion since the All-Star break. So we're going to talk about some of the guys at their new levels, kind of why they were promoted, what led to that, and then kind of what we expect to see from them at the next level. Then we're going to dive into a little bit of quick talk on the draft class guys. From what I've heard, the White Sox are going to be sending guys to affiliates next week. Next week being, the only 2 weeks, or I guess right now we're 2 weeks post draft, so that would be 3 weeks post draft. Everybody's in Arizona right now. They're playing these Bridge League games right now with the draft class. This week, there's 3 games scheduled this week, scrimmages with the draft class. So that's going to be their time to kind of show what they've got in Arizona, and then you're going to see a number of the college guys, a fair handful of them, heading out to affiliates. Then today we're going to wrap up by talking just some of the top prospects and kind of what we want to see here as we look into August. You've got less than 2 months in the minor league season here. For the lower levels, you've only got about a month and a half, and for Charlotte, you've got a little under 2 months here. So very interested to see kind of what that looks like. But we're going to just wrap today by talking through just some of the guys that what we want to see from some guys as the season wraps up here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun couple days, especially with the trade deadline. You never know; a Luis Robert trade could break while we're on live in the next hour or so. But we're gonna talk some. It's a bit of a different change of pace from our usual content, but I think this is a good sort of benchmark to see what top prospects are, what they need to do to have a successful end of the season. And for some guys, they've already smashed my expectations already. They've beaten what I expected from them coming into the year, and now anything else is gravy. But there are some guys where you'd like to see them just take a little bit more steps towards a potential end of the year promotion or starting off 2026 at a higher level. If you want to see some growth from those guys, this is the time to do it because you can ride that momentum into the offseason and just keep building.
Yeah, 100%. This is the time where you want to see guys take that step, make that move, and just kind of, become, just show a little bit of stuff of what we want to see from that player moving forward, whether it's, just getting back in their groove or anything like that. So we'll start with some promotions. I mean, you kind of probably know who I'm gonna start with here
Yeah.
because he's been ridiculous. This is my guy, our guy. Sam Antonachi has been in Birmingham for 2 weeks, and he already is maybe the best hitter in that Birmingham lineup, to be honest.
Well, he won Double-A Hitter of the Week already. Last week, he's played 9 games in Double-A and already has a Hitter of the Week under his belt. It's ridiculous stuff, and I've been really impressed by Antonachi the entire season. But now that he's in Double-A, I think that it's just going to become even more impressive because he's doing it against
Yeah.
the best of the best. Like the Southern League is a very pitcher dominant league, and he looks like he's still in Kannapolis. Like he's still just going the other way for singles, and he's doing that approach where if he gets a strike first pitch, or if he gets a pitch that he wants to hit first pitch of the at bat, he'll swat it into left center. But if he doesn't, then he'll be super patient and grind out a 9 pitch at bat. So it's been a lot of fun watching Antonachi this year, and he could be in the mix for a 2026 White Sox position. We'll see.
Yeah, man. I mean, since getting to Birmingham, it's not just like with him, the approach never varies, and that's what's really exciting. And a guy that just there's a lot of players as they rise the ranks where they get a little eager, they get a little ambitious, and they kind of adjust their approach, right? It's 9 games there in Birmingham. Not only is he hitting 400, but he has a almost 600 on base percentage because he's walked 9 times in 9 games
Nuts.
and he only struck out 5. Another 5 stolen bases to go along with that. I mean, on the season now, it's between when you look at his total season stats in 75 games, including a couple games at the complex when he's rehabbing, it's 50 walks to 46 strikeouts, and an on base percentage of 449, and 32 stolen bases when you tack on all that. Right,
Jesus.
so the impact is still coming along, right? You only 4 homers, 4 triples. Like, sure, you want to see that tick up, but this guy could be a valuable big league player even if it's 10 homers a year, right? Like it doesn't have to be more than that. Yeah, you'd love to see him kind of continue to develop and grow into his body. Also, like, he's 22 until the beginning of next season. He isn't from 23 till spring training next year. So it's like, this is a guy who could still add a little bit more impact, but I'm here for it, man. It's been great. He looks good at that level. Somebody just asked kind of, where are you going to play him? It's interesting because Antonachi, coming in as a shortstop, right, has played a little bit of shortstop this year, but has mostly been playing third and second, a combination of both. Since getting to Birmingham, I believe it's 3 games at third, 4 games at second, and then 2 games DHing just because of the mix there in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
I think he actually looks pretty good at third base. It is more about the arm. If the arm can hold up at third, I think he could last at third. I feel like the instincts and the feel at third base is actually fairly good from Antonachi. He played third in college too, so this is a guy that has experience playing third. If it's at second, I think it can be an even better caliber of defense, but I do think they're going to give him a chance to keep working up at third and still mixing at third and second. I don't think he's going to play much short at this point from moving on.
Yeah, and if he can just be a versatile infielder that can play second, third, or short, we've seen the White Sox utilize Colson Montgomery and Chase Mydroth at multiple different positions. And, if you can basically slide any of the 3 guys on the non-first base positions, you can just slide them around in any combinations that you want. That's a good thing because you've always got athletic people up the middle, and then you got somebody at third. Chase Mydroth is probably the least likely to play third because I think Antonachi's arm is maybe a bit better than him, and he doesn't have to get like the running start that Mydroth does when he throws the ball across the diamond. But, I think that Antonachi could very well be the third baseman for the White Sox in the second half in 2026, and it would not shock me at all.
Yeah, and if it's a rotating spot where he plays a couple games at second, a couple games at third, if he can be a backup at short, like that works as well for him. Moving on to some other guys, the next up I want to discuss is Matias Lome, and I'm kind of just going in chronological order for people listening of just kind of since the All-Star break, who's gotten promoted. I'm going since then and working towards now. Matias Lome, we've been talking about him for a while this year because he has been metrically and performance-wise incredibly impressive, but as a 23-year-old, in the complex, right? Like in the complex stats in general are a little bit hard to put much stock in. Complex numbers can often be inflated either direction, just kind of, depending on the way it goes for certain guys. Lacumbe gets to Kannapolis. He got promoted about 10 days ago, I believe. And then he, gets to Canny, his first game there. It's 3 innings of no hit ball, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. The stuff is really good, man. The stuff is really good. And there's a reason why Lacumbe, despite being, a 12th rounder, not really pitching a ton last year, not pitching at all last year, the minor league ranks, there's a reason why he's going to be in our top 30, man. And it's really cool to now see him in Kannapolis where we get to watch him in games, hopefully at least once or twice a week.
Yeah, there was a couple clips of his stuff that were going around Twitter, and just like the shapes and just everything about his pitches, like he was way too good for Arizona. I'm not sure why he was there longer than.
He was just the innings thing too. I think they had his body
probably
right, get him feeling
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably similar to what we saw with Christian Opper last year, where it was just like mechanical stuff that he he wasn't necessarily fully comfortable with yet, and the organization just didn't see everything that they wanted to see before they shipped him out to an affiliate. But he dominated in Arizona, and then he is continuing that in Kannapolis because the pitch metrics are very good. It's a fastball up to 98. The sweeper is really good, and then the splitter that he's added has really sort of tied everything together, and it's just a really fun 3-pitch mix that Lacombe. Is it Lacombe or is it Lacombe?
I don't even know. I should ask
Yeah.
him or his somebody of his family at some point, but
Yeah, it's a really fun mix, and he's going to be in our top 30 because of it. Like you said, it's not that he's been a standout in the high minors. He's just gotten a ton of love from people who are there watching the games and can see just how dominant he really is.
yeah, 100%. He's just been really impressive, and I think I'm curious what the plan is with him. That's one guy who I'm definitely watching. Well,
Yeah.
In terms of he's not going to be on our list for later in the episode, so I might as well just say it now. He
Mhm.
for the second half, like, what is the plan with him? Is it throwing 3 to 4 innings spurts here for the rest of the season to then have him starting next year? Is it kind of working him into 2 inning spurts twice a week? Like, what does it kind of look like with him? Because you'd love that profile to be a starter, and he has the
Yeah.
talent to be. But 23 years old, hasn't built up his arm enough. So it's like if you're going to start him, he's probably not fully ramped up till mid to late next season as a starter. He's still only in at most double A at that point, and then he's 24, 25. Like, part of me thinks with a guy of his stuff and his caliber, you kind of fast track him as a reliever here. But I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I could definitely see him being that sort of like long relief guy out of the bullpen. I don't want to call him like Mike Vassell-esque where he can play multiple roles in that bullpen. But, it would not shock me if he sort of ends up being that Swiss Army knife, he can pitch as the first guy out of the bullpen. He can pitch as the last guy out of the bullpen. He can fill in for a spot start here and there. So there's a lot of different ways that you could build out Lacombe's like overall outlook, but I think that he like the fastest track, like you were saying, for him to be a big leaguer is probably through the bullpen, just because his arm isn't going to need to be stretched out as much as he would had he been a starter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Next promotion to mention is Ryan Burroughs, and Ryan Burroughs was a kind of surprising promotion, and surprising because it hasn't been the easiest path for him the past 2 seasons in Kannapolis, but had really shown a lot of signs lately in his past handful of games of looking pretty good in the last month or two in Canny, and I think just situationally there was just there's going to be guys coming up from the draft, and it just made sense to get him to Winston for kind of build on that momentum he was feeling. His first 5 games in Winston, 4 hits, some ups, some downs, a couple stolen bases, a couple defensive miscues, but interesting to see Burroughs, getting up to that at this point where he's 20, so he's still pretty young for the high level and hasn't had the most success in single A to this point. Were you surprised, and kind of just what did you make of his promotion?
I kind of was, but at the same time, it also sort of made sense because he's a streaky guy, and he was on a bit of a hot streak before being promoted, and then you hope that he could ride that into a new level and continue to perform well and get comfortable there. But he struggled a bit. It's been an up and down season, especially defensively, because he'll make plays that you're like, what are we doing? And then he'll also make a Web Gem Sports Center top 10 play. So
Right.
it's definitely it's an interesting profile with Burroughs, but I think that if he was gonna get promoted to high A anytime this year, it was going to be around now when all of the college draftees are coming in, and somebody's got to go up because there's simply no room in Kannapolis right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Somebody asked in the chat if there's any chance George goes to Winston. I don't see George Walcow going to Winston. I think it's pretty unlikely at this point. It's been an up and down season. I just think they'd rather have him in Kannapolis and just ride out the season there and then be able to go into next year, build on some of that momentum. One other guy to mention in terms of the promotions, a number of guys obviously released. That's one hard thing with the draft is that there is a number of guys that are going to get released every year. It sucks, and we wish all those guys the best. Adrian Gill isn't a heel. I'm gonna go with Adrian Heel.
I think it's Heel.
I believe it's Heel, like Luis Heel of the Yankees. Adrian Heel, another one that got promoted to Kannapolis from the complex, and I'd kind of been mentioning him a couple times as a guy who I'd like to see in Kannapolis because the numbers have been really good this year. He's done a lot of good things in the Arizona complex, and it's his second year at the complex level. He was there last year, and this year there's been some noticeable improvements this season with just a little bit more, a little bit sounder, upside in terms of the power. He's tapping into a little bit more there. He's stealing some more bags. He's playing all over the infield. So interesting guy to just keep an eye on there. Who now he's in Kannapolis, and the bats are going to be interesting with some of the draft guys getting there too. How they're going to spread at bats out. But Adrian Hill, had a nice hit in his first game there. It'll be up and down. Still super young. But I am curious to see how Heel does in Kannapolis there and how much innings he gets here down the stretch.
Yeah, I think he's 19, 20?
Yeah, 19.
19. So yeah, he's still very young, and I think this is sort of just a move for him to continue playing against actual competition, because the Arizona Complex season just ended last week. The White Sox Arizona Complex team actually did better than any team in recent memory. They just missed out on the playoffs by a single. It was a tiebreaker. They were tied for first and ended up not making the playoffs. But it's just a way for Heel to continue playing against pitchers who are actually, I don't want to say trying, because pitchers are trying even in the backfield games in Arizona. But it's a way for him to continue to get better, and I think he'll open the season in Canny next year. I would be shocked if he went back down or got a bump up. But it'll be fun to see how they distribute all the innings between the new guys and the college draft picks that are coming in. So Kannapolis is going to be pretty fun to watch in the coming 6 weeks.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm with you for sure. It's going to be really cool with a lot of new guys there. The last promotion to mention is Jacob Gonzalez heading to Charlotte. And I think we're going to get into it later where we think the draft guys are going to go. I think there's this chain reaction a little bit in the system where with Antonachi going up to Birmingham, that kind of made it logical to push, Gonzalez up to Charlotte. And then we're going to see some guys coming into the lower levels who will take those spots, right? Oh my God, no way Vaughn just homered. Anyways, I saw something to say Andrew Vaughn homered.
At least it was against the Cubs. It was against the Cubs.
Andrew Vaughn is good, apparently. Anyways, Jacob Gonzalez heads to Charlotte. Do you think Gonzalez debuts later this season, or is it more of just kind of getting him some Charlotte innings to look into next year's future? Because I think it's more next year, but
I could see him debuting like last 10 games of the season, something like that. But I think that this is more of a promotion for next year and just seeing what he has against AAA pitching. Because, at least in my opinion, I think that any bat that you were going to send to Charlotte, you could have just called up right away from AA. I think that the AA just talent as a whole on pitching and the hitting side, I think that is an overall more talented league than AAA. But, with Gonzalez, there's a bit of he's found something with a torpedo bat. He had a bad last month or so, but before that he was starting to hit like the first round draft pick that he was drafted as. So I think that they're just looking for him to continue to hit with the torpedo bat, and we know how much of an offensive environment Charlotte is, and if he can benefit from that and sort of ride that momentum into next year, I'm all for it. Sign me up.
Yeah, we'd love to see him kind of heat up. It would be nice to see just some high end production from him and give him some confidence going into next year, and just see where that goes from there. The next thing we're going to kind of get into is where these draft class guys, and this leads into it, because the draft class is an interesting situation where I think that it's going to be unique this year, because there is these higher end picks, right? The guys that we're circling are more often these high school guys who probably are going to be in Arizona for the rest of the season. I think I've heard there's a chance that a Billy Carlson debuts in Kannapolis this year, but if not, I do think that they will spend Carlson, Fauske, and Hodge, that is the three top three of the four high school picks. I think they will spend the majority of the season in Arizona, the rest of the season. But a lot of college guys who I do think will debut at the affiliates, and from what I've heard, are going to debut at the affiliates next week. Oh, Braden, thank you in the chat. Braden Montgomery, that's the other one. I should circle back to that before. Braden Montgomery goes to AA. Yep. That one was surprising. Appreciate you, baseball, in the chat. That was I had that on my list and just totally went through it. Braden Montgomery goes to Birmingham. That was surprising. That definitely caught me off guard. I thought it would be this season. I expected it this year. But I didn't expect it this soon. And I do think it's interesting. I think it was kind of just like, oh, he looks good out of the break. He made some adjustments. Let's do it. And that's kind of been the White Sox vibe all season. It's been a little bit of like capitalizing on a guy having a hot stretch here. What did you think when Braden got, kind of bumped up to Birmingham this week?
like you said, I thought it was a bit sooner than I expected. But
Yeah,
at the same time, he started the second half strong, and if they want to get him in Birmingham at a time where he's hot and he's seeing the ball well, now's the perfect time because I always thought that he would be like ending the season in Birmingham, whether that be for like a 2 week stretch, a 4 week stretch. I didn't think that it would be in July. I thought it would be later
right.
on in August, and he would just get a little taste of Double A action at the end of the year. This sort of makes it seem like he could be fighting for a roster spot next year because in
Yep.
my opinion, there's not a lot of outfielders that could compete for roles in the White Sox at the major league level. There's not a lot of internal options for an outfield role, especially if Andrew Benintendi gets traded, especially if Luis Robert gets traded. There's a lot of open positions, and this sort of makes it seem like they want to see how he can do against that next tier of pitching. Because, like I said earlier, I think Double A pitching is just as good or better than Triple A. So if they can see how he does against Double A pitching, then you never know. It could just be straight up from Double A to the big leagues in 26.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out with him. I want to ask. This has been asked a couple times. I see Braden as more of a right fielder. I think there's a
Yeah,
chance he sticks in
yeah,
center, and I do think he's still going to get reps here and there in center. But I think with the arm strength and just kind of with wanting to keep making sure his bat is the priority, ultimately, I think that he's more of a right fielder, and I think he will be playing right field in Chicago next year, like you just alluded to there. I just don't know when. I still think it's later in the season next year versus earlier. But at the same time, man, like they're leaning into this youth right now, and they're making it very clear this season more than ever that they want to prioritize the youth. The organization is ready to prioritize the youth. So Braden's last 10 games in A ball in Winston before he goes up Birmingham, right? It was a 192 WRC plus, an OPS over 1,000 in his past 10 games. So they and the strikeout rate of only 25% in the past 10 games compared to
yeah,
a little bit of a higher mark on the season. So I think they saw that he was getting hot. He was looking comfortable. He's looking better from the right, both sides of the plate as well. I think he had some really nice at bats from the left side where he had struggled at times this year. So I think it was just, look, he's heating up. He looks good. Let's just do it. Let's get him to that level. He's going
yep,
to have some good hitters in that lineup with him. That Birmingham lineup is all of a sudden pretty fun there with
yeah.
Antonachi and Braden Montgomery joining it.
Yeah, and one of my guys, Ryan Galaney, is consistently hitting. I think
Yeah.
he's hitting 3 or 4 in that lineup.
Yeah.
But
Just
yeah,
helps to have that guy behind you, right? Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
it's a really fun top of the lineup, and then you got Riku Nishida, who's just he's a just a walking highlight reel. Like is just a very fun baseball player. Even if
Yeah.
he ends up just being an org guy, he's one of my favorite guys to watch in the system, just because he's doing
It's always a
things
good
that
time for sure.
that that just don't happen on the baseball field today.
Yeah, 100%, man. All right, now we can get into the
Yeah,
draft guys here. A lot of these guys are going to be up at affiliates with a college heavy class after those three early prep guys, and then Matthew Boughton as well being the late prep guy, right? 16 of 20 picks being college guys, a good number of them being either older signings or kind of just experienced guys like a Colby Shelton, right? Or some senior signings in Anthony DePino or Riley Eckhoff, right? So you've got a lot of range of experience here. Quick shout out to, as the time when this episode is out on audio, there will also be a Kyle O'Deese interview. I just talked to him today. Great dude, really cool to get to know him a little bit and hear kind of what his path has been like. So definitely be on the lookout for my interview with third round pick Kyle O'Deese. Speaking of Kyle O'Deese, like I think there's a few college guys that have a real reason and a real shot to go right to Winston, whether it's because of positioning or just their experience. I do think there's maybe 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys that could be at least in consideration for Winston. Ultimately, I think a couple will probably go there and skip over Kannapolis.
yeah. I think we've said it from the beginning. Lodice is like the very obvious candidate to go straight to Winston because you've got Caleb Bonnemer in Kannapolis holding down the shortstop spot, and with Sam Antonachi going up to Double A, that sort of leaves a vacant shortstop spot. Like, yeah, you got Ryan Burroughs, but he can shift to another position. He can shift to third. Gerald Perez can shift to second, wherever. But Lodice should pretty easily go to Winston in my eyes. And then you mentioned it, Colby Shelton. I think he can easily go to third base in Winston right away. And then some of the older pitchers, you mentioned Riley Eichhoff.
Yep.
I'm not sure if like a Daniel Wright would go straight there. He
I don't
could,
think so, but it's possible.
maybe.
I think he
Yeah,
probably
some of
is
the
out of the pen in Kannapolis, but yeah.
yeah, just any of the older like senior sign guys who have been around for a while, and they don't have anything to prove in Kannapolis, so they just all right. go up to Winston to start. But I think the majority of guys will see Kannapolis first before
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Anthony DePino is the other one to mention. A senior
Yeah,
signing out of Rhode Island. Bigger first baseman, probably shifts to third, or third baseman, but probably shifts to first. I think him and Shelton could be the corner guys in Winston there
right.
if you want to push those guys. But I think Lodis and Shelton are the two that I'm kind of the most keyed in on in terms of going straight to Winston. Beyond those guys, I do think that you're going to get a pretty large crop of pitchers, especially in Kannapolis. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if Gabe Davis is currently healthy right now, but I feel like if he is, I think that a pitcher of his caliber has nothing to prove in Kannapolis. Like if you view him as a reliever, which I've seen conflicting reports, but I don't think you would draft a reliever in the fifth round. So if he's a starter, I could see him going to Kannapolis.
That's why I think he's in Kannapolis. I think it's
Yeah,
more of a let him kind of work on his body, become a real starter in Kannapolis this year.
yeah. Anyway, I'll say this. It would not shock me if he opened 2026 in Winston just because of
Yeah,
how good his stuff is, and if he can stay healthy over the winter, would not shock me at all. If they were like, yeah, you've got nothing to do in Kannapolis, you're just going straight to Winston. So
yeah, no, I'm with you for sure. So that's kind of where we generally see those draft guys going. I think next year, like for reference of people that are kind of wanting to know about the high school, the prep guys, I don't see any reason why Carlson and Fauski couldn't open the year in Kannapolis. There's
oh
a
yeah,
chance they still spend a little bit of time in Arizona next year just because they are so young. I think Hodge is more likely to spend a little
yeah,
more time in Arizona. I could see Hodge being kind of like Walcow was, where he gets at least a couple months maybe
right.
in Arizona next year and he forces the agenda. But I do expect Billy Carlson and Jaden Fauski to be starting in Kannapolis pretty much all of next season.
Yeah, I think that both of them, especially Carlson, are going to be in Kannapolis, if not on opening day, very shortly after. And Carlson, I think, is the more likely one just because of his age. And like, yeah, we've seen Mike Shirley say like, yeah, it's not about chronological age, it's about developmental age, which I think is interesting. But Billy Carlson is too advanced for Arizona. Like it's very very simply put, he's too good for beating up. I don't want to say beating up, but like his talents are not best used in Arizona. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
I'm with
think
you, man.
Fauski's on just a bit of a slower track just because Midwest guy
It
isn't.
honestly could be similar, dude. He's
It
so
would not shock
advanced.
me. It would not shock me. But we've
Yeah,
seen guys go from like Midwest high schools and they're not playing until like March. So their bodies aren't like ready to play baseball for
it's
six
fair. It's
months
a good point. Yeah.
straight. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
definitely, man. Well, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, going to be really exciting. Definitely keep an eye on the Future Sox page, and I know Jeff Cohen's going to be at a number of games in Winston and Kannapolis, trying to kind of catch up with the draft guys. I'll have some more interviews already. Jaden Fauski's out, Kyle Odis is
Yep.
out. I should have a handful of other ones with a variety of draft picks here in the next few weeks. But going to be really cool to see those guys at their respective organizations or affiliates once they get assigned next week, probably. Getting into our kind of our next main segment of the day, what do we want to see in the second half? Not even the second half, the last two
Yeah.
months here. What do we want to see from top guys? What are the things that we're looking for heading into next year where it's like, okay, that's a tangible adjustment and an improvement from what we've seen this year that we can really build off of and just be excited about going to next year and something we can kind of take moving forward and see what happens with it. We'll start with Noah Schultz, man. He's not healthy right now, working through
Yeah.
this little knee injury. I want to see Schultz make a couple good starts in Charlotte. That's really all it is. And get a couple more
Yeah.
innings under his belt. You look at the stats right now. Noah Schultz he's up to 68 innings this year between Birmingham and Charlotte. A number of really short starts. A number of this little knee injury now. I mean, it would be amazing to get Schultz over what he threw last year. Last year he
Right.
threw 88 innings and a third. This year he's at 68. If he can get another 20 innings this year, and he can at least match last year's innings total while having some quality games in Charlotte, that is all I need to see from Schultz. I really don't care at the end of the day about what happens in those games in Charlotte. I would just love for him to get another 3-4 plus starts under his belt in Charlotte at the end of the year, just to get his body going, get that near 100 innings under kind of tapped in this season.
Yeah, for me, it was never about results this year for Schultz. Like, yeah, you obviously want to perform well and make your box score look as good as possible. But yes, we should play both catchers in the lineup. I'm not sure why why that's so hard. I think that
Yeah.
Teal and Caro are that's a
Yeah.
tangent for a different episode.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, Schultz, like his stat line this year wasn't going to matter to me because this was his first year getting stretched out as a starter, and there were going to be bumps in the road, and we've seen some of that. But overall, I think this season is a success for Schultz because he's able to show that he can go deeper on into games and continue to hold that velo. Granted, he's not throwing 98 every pitch like he was when he was only going 3-4 innings,
Right.
but he's shown that he can pitch into the sixth and seventh inning. And, there's a lot of positive signs from this year from Noah. And, like you said, I think that if he can just get healthy again and throw another 4 or 5 starts in Charlotte, that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think it's just getting some more innings under his belt. That's really what it comes down to. Get healthy. I just want to see him look healthy,
Yeah,
feel healthy, and get some good innings in before the end of before next year when, we know he's going to be competing for a role in Chicago at some point next year, whether it's out of camp or whether it's,
right.
mid-season, late season. Like, he'll be in Chicago next year. It's just a matter of when. Hagen Smith, this one's simple for me, man. You got to see that velo tick back up.
Yep.
It's hard. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's some of the mechanical tweaks, just him working through his body, the arm just not being completely right. I don't know what it is. And the White Sox have downplayed any sort of injury. So it seems like it's been kind of this angle of like, oh, we're working on it. We're working through his biomechanics, we're working on his pitch arsenal. And like all that is fine. I'm not saying, it's been a somewhat disappointing season. I'm not saying that he needs to be, coming out and throwing these gems right now in Birmingham to finish out the
Right.
year. It'd be great, of course. I'd love it. But I want to see that velo tick back up, man. It's been 93, 94 since, May or so. And really the majority of the season in Birmingham, he's been in that 93 to 95 range. This is a guy who was throwing 99 at Arkansas, man. And you got to see that tick back up for his arsenal to really be as good as we think it can be and as good as it was projected to be when he was drafted last year. The slider has had a little less bite to it than it did in college, and the fastball velo just has not been where you need it to be for him to be, the type of pitcher that we hope he can be.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like the fastball velo, like consistently being 92, 93, 94, like that can't happen for
Yeah,
a pitcher like Hagen Smith. For in order for him to be successful, you have to have that good fastball because if
he's
the
got to post the
slider
tower, man. That's what it is too.
exactly exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I like in starts that I've watched where there's a radar gun on the screen and like we can see like the live numbers come in. I don't think I've seen him throw a 97 like all year. I genuinely don't think I have. And if that's the if the case is that he's hurt and like that's why they're limiting his innings, sure, fine, that makes sense. But like don't tell us that you're just working on his biomechanics in Arizona because like to me he hasn't looked healthy all year.
yeah.
Like
He
you
doesn't look
don't
like himself. He doesn't look like
yeah
himself.
you don't just simply lose like 4 miles an hour of velocity just like that. Like yeah there's
Yeah,
a bit of a switch going into pro ball, but this level of like just ticking down across the board, it just something isn't right there. And I'd like to see him back because when he's on, he's a great pitcher, but there's just something wrong, and I'm not sure if it's injury, if it's like mechanical stuff, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, I'm not sure if it's something that he's going to need to get surgery on or if it's just kind of getting his arm healthy. I just want to see a couple starts where you really start to see that stuff pop off the page a little
Yep.
bit again. And I'm not sure we're going to see it this year, honestly, because it hasn't been there so far. But I do think it's possible. I think it's in there. We know it's in there, right? So that's
Yeah.
the thing for Hagen in terms of when we talk about like, what do we want to see? I would love to see him just tick up a little bit more with that velo and just see it come back a little. We don't need to talk too much of Colson just because he's in the bigs already, and we're trying to keep this
Hmm.
mostly on prospects. And I'm kind of just going through the prospect list here. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. That's
Yeah.
kind of all I'm at. Just keep doing what you're doing. Look a little more comfortable at third base. That would be great. I think if he can kind of just find a little more feel at third, but really like Colson has been impressive here out of the gate in Chicago. More impressive than I think most people expected him to be initially in his big league career. I thought he would be struggling a bit more, and he is striking out a lot, a decent fair clip, and I'd like to see him walk a little bit more, sure. But honestly, like it's been really good so far. I just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing, Colson, and let's just see more of this for the next 2 months. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's got an 832 OPS right now through his first 3 weeks of action. Like
Yeah,
that's just if he can continue
great.
to do that and ride it out until the end of the year, awesome, great.
Yeah,
I love
that'd
it.
be awesome.
Just continue to hit the occasional homer. I'm not even saying occasional homer. He went 3 straight games with a home run. Like
Another
that's
today.
awesome for a
Another today.
rookie. Yeah, and like we said, homered today, and just continue to do that, and just don't look completely overwhelmed at the plate. Like there were
Yeah.
a lot of times in AAA especially, and even earlier on this year where he just looked like he had no chance at the plate. Like you could throw him a fastball right down the middle and he would still find a way to, pop it up, roll it over. But now he looks confident at the plate and he looks like he wants to do damage. And I think that's one of the things that we saw him talk about when he went to Arizona. It was just a lot of mental work. Like there are going to be games where you go 0 for 4. You just have to let that game stay that game. Don't let it roll over into tomorrow. You just got to continue to do good things and just have a short memory.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think that's just keep getting in his groove, keep doing his thing, keep enjoying the
Yep.
big league level. I think he's made for this. I mean, as a person and personality wise, like he's made for this type of moment, and he's made for the energy of being a big league player. Like that's who he is. The person has always been inside of him. He just had his struggles, and like that happens, man. Like that's baseball, right? I
Yeah.
think for him, just keep it up, just keep rolling. Next is Braden Montgomery, switching to the other Montgomery, and we talked about his promotional, little, so we kind of can keep this one quick. I just want to see the contact rate tick up a little. That's what I would love to see for Braden Montgomery. I think that at the Double A level, he's going to be in a more pitcher friendly environment. He's already had, he's running a 24% strikeout rate this season, which is fairly high, right? I mean, it's not too bad, but it is a little bit high there in terms of what he's at strikeout rate wise. And the walk rate's been good. He's taken his pitches, but it's a 60. I'm looking at a 70% overall contact rate this season. 50% swing rate this season. I would like to see that tick up. If he can finish out the year with a kind of in the 75 to 80% contact rate in the next 2 months in Birmingham, even if that's probably being a little aggressive, it's probably not going to be quite that high. But even if it's
Right.
above that 70 mark at a higher level, that would be great to see him make the same, if not more, contact at the next level.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who have been like impressed by Braden Montgomery and his power this year, and he'll go on stretches for a 2 week stretch where he's batting 450 and has like a 1600 OPS or something. But for me, I just want to see him be a more consistent player, like limit the cold streaks and yeah, obviously, we would want him to be that 1600 OPS hitter, but just
Yeah.
limit the cold streaks. That's what I'm gonna say is my thing for him.
Yeah.
Just be able
I like
to
that.
just continue at the same rate. It's similar to what Colson went through earlier on in the year, where you get into a funk and you can't drag yourself out of it. Just if you have one bad game, all right, move on. Next game is going to be a better game, and tell yourself and repeat that over and over and over again until it happens. And that's a lot of the mental side of things, but just limit the bad games and continue to just put up good at bats. That's all I want to see.
Nope, I'm with you there. Next guy up on my list of just kind of going through this list is Caleb Bonnemer. And Caleb Bonnemer, 19 years old, has had a very successful first professional season after being, second round pick last year. Caleb Bonnemer, just finish out the season, man. Just finish out the season. I don't need to see much more from Caleb Bonnemer. I think we talked about this pre-recording, and I talked about this with some other draft picks I've been talking to lately. It's a huge adjustment getting into the big league routine and that level. And I talked to Caleb about it a couple weeks ago. You can check out that interview with him. Like he feels great and he's excited, but like it's a grind. It's a whole nother level coming from high school ball into minor league ball, and especially for him immediately going to Kannapolis, not even being in the complex at the beginning of the year. It's going to take some time. Whatever he does the rest of the year, even if it is a tick down from what he's been doing this season, I'm not worried about that at all. If it's good, great. That's a cherry on top.
Right.
But at the end of the day, for him, just stay healthy, finish out the season healthy. He's gonna get, if he's healthy, he's gonna get over 100 games under his belt this year, which for a high school guy who's in the Midwest has probably never played more than 40 games in a season, that would be incredible.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Just stay healthy and continue to just be the same exact player. I know that he's gone through a bit of a funk in the last month or so, where he hasn't had the best like box score stats. But there's a lot to like in Caleb Bonnemer's game,
Yeah,
especially given the fact that he was, I don't want to say unknown coming into the year because he was obviously a top 10-ish prospect in the White Sox system. But if you told me preseason that Caleb Bonham would be a consensus top 100 prospect and a top 5 in the White Sox system, like borderline top 5,
Yeah.
I it would have been awesome for me. And he's smashed every expectation I have for him. And just stay healthy. Maybe hit for a little bit more power, but that's if I'm being like really,
Yeah.
really, really nitpicky.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. The next two guys up, I'm going to combine into one, and it's kind of on the same track as Bonham. Tanner McDougal and Christian Opper.
Yeah.
Just take it easy,
Yep.
control the innings, finish out the year. These two have been the biggest breakouts in the system by far. I mean, both were kind of not even top 30, kind of honorable mention of the top 30 heading into the year. Have just we knew they were talented young guys, 21, 22 years old, and it just has been so impressive to watch these two work this season. They've both already gotten up multiple levels, right? They've already gotten to their next level. McDougal being in Birmingham and Double A now, and Alper being in High A and Winston right now. Just stay healthy, finish out the year, get these innings. I mean, right now you look at McDougal, he is 2 innings off of his career high in innings in a season, which he got last year, and Opper is already well above his career high in innings. He's already at almost 60 innings this season after only throwing 38 last year in the complex. If McDougal can get over 100, if he can get into the kind of 105, 110 innings territory, which he's going to hit at this point, even with kind of limited starts, and Opper can get it about 75 innings. 75 innings for your first affiliated season is already huge for a guy that is, pitching at the success that Opper's having too. So I'm really pumped about just everything they're doing. It's great stuff. So I think that they are both in a really good position, and it really comes down to just stay healthy, stay the course, and finish out the year for those guys.
Yeah, stay healthy is just another. We're going to be saying that a lot for a lot of guys who have had good seasons. I'm also going to be nitpicky for Opper and McDougal. Just continue to throw strikes. Those two guys have struggled in the past with command and strike throwing in general. If they can just continue to throw strikes, and I'm not asking them to be, George Kirby levels where, you're walking like 2.5% of batters, but just continue to throw strikes, limit the waste pitches, and just stay healthy, man, because those two are just such electric arms. It's so fun.
It's so fun to watch. So keep them healthy, see what happens. Next up, I want to go to George Walcow here, and we had talked about him briefly earlier because I think he'll finish in when he'll stay in Kannapolis, he'll probably finish his second year there. I'm hoping that next year it's that bump to Winston. For me to feel comfortable with Walcow heading into Winston next year, this might be a little counterintuitive. I want to see a little of 2024 George Walcow, and that might seem a little weird to some people because we want to see him moving forward. But I want to see some nukes, man. I want to see a couple games this, and he already is kind of starting to do so. You look at the last 10 games for Walcow here since the break, and this is including this is including the one game before the break, and actually wasn't a good game since the break. Or since his last 10 games, particularly, it's a 341, 372, 561. Particularly since the break, he's had a three hit game, a 4-hit game, and 2-hit games in those 9 games since the break. A pair of home runs. I think 3 doubles, all of that since the All-Star break. So you're starting to see it, right? It's starting to kind of show, but I want to see some Walcow just getting into the ball, man, and just saying screw it. And I like that the approach has gotten better this season. It's good to see for sure. But I want to see him really just lean in all the way to who he is and the power he has, and just have some games where he just looks like he's can't be touched.
Yeah, I just want to see him get a ball on the outer third, and instead of going into left center for a single like he's been doing this season, and it's been great to watch his hit tool jump and take that next step. I want to see him go 430 feet to left field because one of his first affiliate ball homers, it was 440 feet to left center. Like that's stupid power. And it's just so fun to see when he's on and he's hitting nukes. It's such a fun profile, but it hasn't been there this year. And for whatever reason, there's a lot for him to learn because, he's still just 19 years old. I'm not asking for him to be Aaron Judge right away, but there's tools there that if they're all blended together and everything clicks at the same time, it's so fun. And I hope that can happen in the second half of the season, but I'm going to say exactly what you said again. Just hit for more power. Just continue to have the good approach, but also start elevating the ball, man. Like just get into some and put them over the fence.
And for a little perspective here, right? Like the contact rate from last year in Kannapolis, it was a 57.4% contact rate.
It's not good.
This year it's 67.8. So like those are really great strides for him to be making.
It's an improvement.
And it's still 10 home runs as a 19-year-old in single A. It's still 21 stolen bases this year, which is a great tick up for him. The strikeout rate at 27% is incredibly, I mean, that's a huge jumping from a 40% strikeout rate to a 27% is very impressive. Like there's a lot of good things to take from here, but I want to see him lean in a little bit more to just that upside power. And I do think that as Walcow develops, and obviously you don't want to push him into this quite yet, but I do think leaning into a little bit more of a 3-2 outcome type of hitter could be really good for Walcow in the future. Like I would love to see him walk, 13-14% of the time and just hit nukes, even if that comes with a 30-31% strikeout rate as opposed to the 27 it's at right now, right? Like I would give up a couple percent of that improvement in the strikeout rate to get a little bit more umph from him down the stretch here. So for him, I just want some nukes, man. I just want some really nice nukes and just some really impressive, just off the ball line drives.
Yeah, and granted, you're not going to be the 3 true outcomes guy in single A.
Exactly, nobody is.
Exactly. You're not going to continue that all the way up until the MLB, and like you're going to succeed that way. That's just not going to happen. But if that's what Walcow ends up turning into at the big league level, sure, that's fine. But like right now, I get what they're trying to do. They're sacrificing some of that power for more bat to ball, and
learning the zone, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
learning the
figuring
zone,
himself
everything.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's struggled in the power department just because he's not, leaning back on balls and sending them 450 feet to right center, which is fine. But like at a certain point, man, you got all this power. Let's use it. So
yeah, no, I'm with you, man, for sure. The next two guys are another kind of tandem I'm going to do here. Jairo Uriarte and Wilkelman Gonzalez, like big league innings, throw strikes. That's all I got.
Yep. Yeah, that's
that simple.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. Yeah. Would you have Peyton Paulette in there too?
Yeah, for sure. Why not? Right? Why not? Right? If you're trading Dan Altavilla, if you're trading, if you're trying to trade like a Brandon Iser maybe, or if you end up trading Steven Wilson and you cash in on him, like whoever you trade in the bullpen immediately should be replaced, not by Mike Clevenger, no Syndergaard, right? Like that should be replaced with innings from Gonzalez, from Uriarte, from Paulette. Like innings from those guys in the big leagues would be amazing for them heading into next year. You can get a better sense of who your bullpen pieces are moving forward. And I just want them to throw strikes, man. Like that's really what it comes down to. This season, Uriarte, in AAA, it's been obviously he was make some starts, but this is his total season numbers. It's a 24% strikeout rate. It's a 16% walk rate. And then Gonzalez, it's in AAA as well. It's a 20% strikeout rate and an 18% walk rate. Like, get him up, and I want to see more strikes. That's really what it comes down to. You just got it. You give them the innings. You see what happens. If they struggle, great. But not great, but pardon me. If they struggle, bummer. If they do great, awesome.
Who cares?
Like that's cool. But it's like, at the end of the day, just get them innings, and let's see some more consistent strikes from those guys, because I just want to see if they have enough command of the zone to be big league relievers. Because at this point, they're relievers. It's just about taking that command and making it good enough to survive in a bullpen.
Yeah, another good mention in the chat by Jamie, Zach Franklin. He absolutely needs to be in the White Sox bullpen down the stretch because, if, like you said, if they trade bullpen arms, I think those 4 immediately should slot in and continue and just give you innings, because I don't want to see Owen White like going the 5th and 6th inning. Like it does nothing for me. Yeah. Another thing, oh God, voice crack. Another thing in the chat, Grant Taylor trades. What are you thinking about that? Because in my opinion, absolutely not. This is not even his peak value yet. You haven't even seen him start, or at least given him a chance to start.
It would have to be a really significant overpay. Like for me to consider it, it would have to be a team like a Dodgers, right? It has to be a team that's competing, that looks at Grant Taylor and says, "You're going to be our bullpen dog this year in the playoffs, and then we're going to make you a starter and turn you into a Garrett Crochet superstar starter." Like it has to be a team that views him that way. And I don't think very many teams view him that way right now, right? Like the only way I would look at that trade and consider a trade for Taylor is if he's being viewed as a, superstar reliever for a year and turned into a starting pitcher, right? Like that a team would have to value him at that type of thing with 5 years of control in order to trade even close to the necessary requirement where I would consider it. Yeah, if the White Sox are getting 3 top 100 hitters,
Yeah,
sure, I'd
sign
consider
me
it.
up.
Do I think any team is doing that for Grant Taylor right now? No
No,
chance.
no.
So
Yeah,
I'm out on that one.
if the Dodgers are giving Zaire Hope and Josue DePaula, sure, but they're not going to. But I
I
think
don't know
that.
what I think I might throw a party if that happened. It would
Oh
never
yeah,
happen, but like
I'd build the Chris
it would
Getz statue
be
with my bare
absurd.
hands. Um, but yeah, Grant Taylor's not going anywhere. I would be absolutely stunned if like teams even or if the White Sox like negotiated about a deal with him
Yeah,
because
I don't see it happening.
there's maybe like 4 or 5 teams in the league that could swing a trade for Grant Taylor that would want to even there's
Right,
just
right.
very few teams that would want Grant Taylor and also have the assets to trade for him. So
Yeah.
he's not going anywhere. We can all
Yeah.
calm down there.
I'm with you. Two more guys to mention, and I'm kind of doing this tandem thing. I don't know why, but it kind of just makes sense with certain guys. Two different guys, actually, different discussions here. But William Bergoya and Gerald Perez, two guys acquired last year. Infielders that are still super young for their level. Bergoya playing in Double A as a 20-year-old. Gerald Perez playing in High A as a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old also this season. Both super young. What do you want to see from either of these guys? Because it's been a solid first full season with the organization for both these guys. But what are some of the key things with these two infielders that you want to see that'll give you the confidence that they can kind of continue to rise and remain as top 20 prospects in the system? Not necessarily take a huge jump, but what would be nice to see these next 2 months to give you kind of the confidence to keep them at where they're at or move them up even a little bit?
For Heral, I think mine would be find a true defensive home. And yeah, versatility
Yeah.
is great, but if you're a shortstop, you're a shortstop. If you're a second baseman, you're a second baseman. And I think that he will play a lot of second with the addition of the draft guys. Kyle Odis maybe goes straight to Winston. I think that if he can just carve out a specific all right, this is my defensive spot. I'm going to play there every single night. It's just going to be less on his mind thinking all right, so I'm at third base tonight or I'm at shortstop tonight. It's just going to build some of that consistency, and I think that'll roll over into the offensive game. And then
Yeah.
with Bergoya, I just want to see him hit for more extra base hits. I'm not asking for homers. I'm not asking for Jack Caglione level of exafilos. More extra base hits because when he's on and when he's splitting the gap with line drives, it's a really fun profile. He does not swing and miss at all, but it's a lot of singles right now, and I think his profile would greatly benefit from him splitting the gap a little bit more and being able to take that extra base.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more aggressive with that one than you. I need a nuke. I need at least one nuke.
Just
I need
one,
one
yeah.
homer. He
Okay.
had one last year with the Phillies organization. Since coming to the White Sox organization, he's played 110 games and doesn't have a single home run. I want one. I want one homer from Bergoya. I just want one. I want one homer from Bergoya, and with him, I would really like to see him walk a little bit more because it's an interesting profile. He has such a unique profile, and the contact rate is so ridiculously high that he doesn't walk a lot because he's always making contact, and the strikeout rate is 5%. I don't know what 20-year-old is having. It's got to be the best.
No, yeah,
rate for someone his age.
the lowest. It's the lowest
it's
in Double A right now
for a 20-year-old, right? Like that is really impressive. Do you want to take a guess on what William Bergoya's contact rate is this season? Overall contact, not even in zone. Overall contact rate.
96.
Okay, that's a little crazy. 96 is like Luis Arias.
I don't know. I have no clue.
But 92.7. It's absurd.
Okay,
that's not 96 is like, yeah, I mean, but no, you're right. Like it's crazy. That's a crazy number. He doesn't whiff at all. It's silly. I mean, that's not like normal. You got to get a little more impact. And as you're trying to maybe find a little impact in there, you got to walk a little more because the only way he's going to be able to be, a big league caliber player without power, and it's fine. It's 0 homers, you're probably not a big leaguer, right? If he can find 5 to 10 homer power, you can be a big leaguer, but you're going to have to walk more. For his profile, with the stolen base, with the speed, right? 26 bags this year, doesn't strike out at all, makes a ton of contact. You got to get that walk rate in more of the 10 to 12% range as opposed to the 7% range that it's been this year. So a small note from him there. And Heral, I'm with you. I want to see Heral just play second base every day. That's where I'm at with him. I want to see him play second base every day, lean into that power hitting second baseman who can take his walks, but is going to strike out sometimes, but is going to kind of just, have his times where he matches. and be a second baseman, and for that position, be a really fun offensive power profile, right? You don't
Right.
see a lot of second base profiles that are hitting 20, 25 homers, 16 home runs already at age 20 this season for Herall. I just want to see him lean in, just be a second baseman, lean into that power, and just become a power hitting second baseman, truly.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I could see him being that the spark plug of the Winston offense down the break, especially now that Braden Montgomery is up in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the power in that Winston lineup is going to come from Herall Perez. So
yeah, I'm with you, man. That sounds great. Any other shouts you got here for anybody? That's the guys I had on my list.
I'm trying to think of like guys who I'm looking to see more of, like, or just
Yeah.
like consistency. Like
Right.
I'll throw in like a Ryan Galaney. Like he's tapered off since getting to Birmingham, but it's overall been a productive season from Galaney, and if he can continue doing the things that he's been doing all season, I'm here for
Yeah.
it. And if he can start hitting for a little bit more power like he was doing at the beginning of the season, I'm all for it. But like we've been saying all episode, it's a grind, man. It's a very, very long season, and your body can just wear down. And homers in April might not be homers, and they might be flyouts in August. So
Yeah.
there's
No, I'm with you.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome shout in the chat here. This is one I meant to
Oh
mention.
yeah,
Seth Keener, the bullpen guy. Let's see a
I'm here
10.
for it.
Let's see a 25+% strikeout rate out of the bullpen from Seth Keener. That would be awesome. That would be my kind of what I want to see from him in the second half. Seth Keener, if the decision is to transfer him into a bullpen role, I want to see some nasty stuff. I want to see the velo tick up a few notches, and I want to see him striking out a lot more batters because the stuff is good enough to strike out a lot of guys for sure. If he's letting it rip for an inning or two spurts, and kind of how Paulette did last year, right? When you saw Paulette start to do those 2 inning spurts in Birmingham, if he can let it rip for 2 inning spurts, I think we could see some really, really solid production from Keener out of the bullpen as well.
Yeah, I think that we've been saying it since like essentially the day he got drafted. Like they're gonna let him try being a starter for as long as he possibly can.
Yeah.
But if that day comes where he is shifted into the bullpen like he has been, apparently I'm not sure if it's permanent. I don't know if his next
I'm
outing
curious.
could be out of the starting rotation. But we've said
It's
from
two
day.
outings in a row now out of the bullpen.
Okay,
That
so
was
then
2 days ago.
he's a reliever now. Yep.
It
Check.
seems like
Reliever.
that transition's happening. We'll see, but it's also funny because that's coming off of by far his best start this season as a 6 inning 1 earned run start in the beginning of the month. So
maybe
it's like who knows?
maybe it's like maybe it's a Grant Taylor situation where they're limiting his innings, and this is the best way to do that instead of just shutting him down early. I don't know, but either way, I think Seth Keener could be a very good reliever and one that could fly up the system. So,
yep. And as we were talking, Colson Montgomery drives in another run. Love to see it. Yeah, that's all I got. I think that we will talk next week. Well, actually, we'll talk sooner than next week. Today's Monday. Also, stay tuned. We got some cool news coming up. We got some really fun news.
Very
on the
fun
FutureSox side of things. We got some things in the works that I'm super fired up about. So we're gonna have some really exciting news here in the next handful of days. In addition to the deadline, so we will have you covered either Thursday or Friday with a deadline stream as well. Hopefully, some big prospects coming back to the organization. We will see. The young guys in the system and the young guys in the organization are pretty fired up for the future right now. Even talking to these draft guys, like people are excited about the future right now, and part of that is going to come back at the deadline. No, there's not Kyle Till, Braden Montgomery package coming back at anybody at the deadline. There's no Garrett Crochet trade at the deadline this year, but I do think you're going to see some really fun pieces added, and Dylan and I will be all over making sure you guys have all the information you need about the prospects the White Sox bring in later this week, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.